Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed audience. It's a great pleasure to be with you today here, participating and building the future in this important industry. So for today and at this time, I think my presentation would not add much to you, but it will cement what other speakers actually already mentioned, because we are now clear with the opportunities and the challenges that we have. But how to take this forward, we need to understand together how we can confirm, then we decide to move forward. So we understand that 80% of our goods are being shipped by vessels, by ships. So it's a very important element to our global trade, which means we cannot slow down any of these activities. And that contributes to around 30% of our global greenhouse gases emissions. And it contributes to 1.2 trillion ton of CO2 emissions. And to support the decarbonization, the IMO has set 3 categories or 3 phases of the decarbonization. And for that, we have first to reduce 20 to 30% of the emissions by 2030. Then we need to reach to 70 to 80% by 2040. And we need to reach to the net zero by 2050. So we have kind of clear targets for the upcoming 30 years, almost 25 to 30 years, which means we need to identify how to proceed. So the estimation says that we are in need to $1.2 to $1.6 trillion investments in infrastructure in order to bridge the gap and reach to the net zero carbon by 2050. So here just few about the International Maritime Organization, how they are leading the practice and the maritime in general. We can see that the maritime supported in identifying or setting targets. Also, the maritime has supported in encouraging more initiatives about clean fuel, alternative fuels. Also putting some kind of schemes to incentivize those who can reduce their emissions, and there will be some kind of penalties for those who would not be able to do that. Also encouraging the carbon markets, as well as the maritime fund, which is one of the important instruments for the upcoming steps that we will require huge investment in the infrastructure in order to bridge the gap. And here we can see some activities, trending initiatives, already conducted by global shipping companies, where we can see electrification is a key element. And we have seen great examples here in UAE, in Abu Dhabi and Dubai in particular, how electrification exercise reduced global emissions. Also, we can go for energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is a very important element where it is a direct contribution to reducing emissions as well as improving profitability. The problem in the sector, it's not because of lacking of investment or regulations, or it's mainly because the sector is a long-term investment. It's infrastructure. It's not, something with return of 5 years or 10 years, as well as the assets, as mentioned earlier by other speakers, that they have assets which is would last maybe for 30, 40 years. So again, investment in infrastructure is a long-term investment, where current investors are not very much willing to keep investing in long-term investment. So in this, we can see also there is initiatives about the design of the energy efficiency design index for the new vessels and new ships. Also for the existing ones, there is energy efficiency existing index, as well as the carbon intensity index. So all these measures needs to be considered in our activities and performance. Also, we can here maybe shed some more light about other initiatives in waste management, which is also another important sector, and that contributes to greenhouse gases emissions, where we need actually also to look at it. Also some of green building activities, because it's not only the vessels. Since we are talking about maritime, we don't want only to keep our focus on the vessels and ships. We also have other logistics. We have other supporting facilities onshore where we have significant carbon emissions coming from these facilities. If we would like to take it in a bigger picture and talk about more ESG, we can see ESG is no longer an optional exercise. It's mandatory now. Having said policymakers, regulations, as we have seen during the previous sessions, that it's already there. And those who will not be compliant, they might face some penalties. And to avoid the zone of being only compliant, why don't we go to being more adaptable with these regulations and move to the resilience zone, which will be better for our businesses. On the other side, also, we can see now financing, investors, they are no longer, as before, looking only for profitability. They are also looking for the non-financial performance where ESG is important. We saw how ESG rating is important to get or to grant loans. As I mentioned, we need $1.2 to $1.6 trillion by 2050 in order to bridge the gap of the carbon emissions and to achieve the decarbonization of net zero. So for that, we need to have proper ESG rating to our organizations and businesses in order to be eligible to unlock profitable financing schemes. Also, technology and innovation, previous colleagues stressed on innovation, which is a very important topic nowadays. AI is one of the tools that would significantly help in better optimizing our operations, reducing cost with zero investment sometimes. It's just to better dialogue with our data, to better dialogue with our operating parameters. So AI is one of the magical tools that we can immediately rely on with minimal investments. Here also, it's back to how we can navigate the barriers of the net zero, how we can achieve the net zero and achieve the decarbonization faster. As we mentioned, we have huge investment required in infrastructure on both sides, the onshore and offshore. We have been talking about alternative fuels, ammonia, green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, and methanol. So in order to produce these types of fuels, we still need manufacturers, we need the producers to take this forward. So it's direct infrastructure that we really need. And then we need infrastructure to handle and store these kind of fuels. Also, we need kind of retrofit to what we already have, if possible, if applicable, because we have heard some of our assets, existing assets, would not be applicable for the retrofit. So we need maybe to either retire these assets earlier if the payback is worth to be replaced, or maybe we need to wait until we complete the cycle of that investment and come with the new regulations and new investments. So this is for the onshore. For the offshore, again, we need to adjust our vessels, our ships, the existing ones. And also we need to take into consideration while we are building new assets or new vessels, we need to consider the requirements, the upcoming requirements. So also how to better operate our vessels. This is one of the areas we need to take into consideration for the upcoming activities in order to achieve the decarbonization. And finally, allow me here just to stress again to what my colleagues said, that it's a matter of collaboration. Collaboration is a must. This is the key word, and this is the magical word that we need all to come together. It's the decarbonization or net zero. It's not one nation responsibility. It's not one organization responsibility. We cannot do it without collaboration between financial services, financial sector, innovation and technology, as well as the operators. So this collaboration will definitely help all of us to reach the net zero, and it's kind of journey. We started the journey, and the upcoming generations will continue the journey. So every small step towards the net zero will have significant impact in the near future. Thank you so much for your good listening, and looking forward to any question maybe in the panel discussion. Thank you.